guys, what's up? Welcome back. So this is my book tour. I know I haven't been active on this channel in a while. That's for many reasons. But it's never far from my mind, ideas and things I could do to get back active on this channel, because it's definitely subject matter and things that I'm very interested in. But I've seen on YouTube another couple of book tours that I thought were really interesting. So I thought maybe some of you guys may find this interesting or useful. So I've been collecting books going back about 10 years now, starting ironically about the time I was going to live overseas for a couple of years. And so I actually ended up, I got books like online. I still took like 2 books with me, and then I found some online, but I had this list that started going really long, and I just had this craving for physical books, having a physical collection. So I definitely have that now. I'm going to go through kind of my main bookshelf here and then a couple of smaller ones. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so it's actually starting on the top, some of the shelf decor here. This is a woodblock photo that I took from the book Sense and Goodness, A Defense of Metaphysical Naturalism by Richard Carrier. And there were just some lines here that really reminded me of me and seemed really appropriate to put on my bookshelf, right? Just talking about the underlying part here about how, devout believers spend their time, in church and praying on stuff all the time. And what for me, I guess I'm more devout than most of them are. Because, I'm constantly reading, thinking, reflecting, like every day of my life, for amount of time every day. It just really struck true and familiar with me. This picture right here is, Socrates being put on trial, executed. And I put a little note here. It's just kind of a reminder of the importance of always continuing to think and to reflect and to doubt and to seek. It's kind of the foundation of how we have done anything, discovered anything, know anything. And you see a piece of tape here that says reason, and that's kind of to contrast it with this picture over here, which kind of represents beauty, passion. Just kind of, that we need both reason and passion. I wouldn't quite say what David Hume says, that reason is a slave of the passions, but they're very tied together, and there's a sense in which that's, true. But I mean, yeah, there is some validity to the dichotomy that, of heart and head, right? What's going to win, your heart or your head, right? But really they work together. Psychology, science kind of attest to this. Look at people that go to the store and they have a emotional impairment and they can't decide what they want. Because there's no connection with anything, for example. But this statue is Venus, Aphrodite, just kind of symbolizing the women, beauty, something I'm quite in favor of. A picture of metal, think of an atom, I guess kind of representing science. Globe, I always want to be aware of geography and where we are, what's going on. A guy reading a book that's actually broken, but I need to fix it or get a new one. But it's pretty cool. Time, obviously. Time to me is probably the most fascinating aspect of the universe, even though time and space, as Einstein showed us, are kind of part of the same fabric. Just time itself, when you reflect on it, to me is just fascinating. Humanist creed, self-explanatory. Getting down here, we kind of do like a general section by section overview, and then I'll get more specific a bit. So here to start off is more kind of science, and I guess you could say psychology. But really it kind of starts with my favorite author here, Steven Pinker. Better Angels of Our Nature is one of those books that I just really fell in love with reading it online when I was overseas and really wanting a physical copy. It's beautiful. These first 2 are signed, Enlightenment Now and Better Angels of Our Nature. I was fortunate enough to get to meet Steven Pinker at an Enlightenment Now book tour talk, so those are signed. There's books that I never really read of his that are older that are just really, really good, like The Blank Slate. I've read that multiple times. How the Mind Works, talking about the computational theory of mind, how the mind is kind of made up of modules that can compete and cooperate. But those both are just full of great information. And the thing, I guess, what makes Steven Pinker my favorite, I guess, contemporary author is he puts forward an idea, a very complete idea rooted in science and evidence that's just so rational, so reasonable, so easy to accept and believe in, at least for me. And it's so appealing, but it's still so, I guess, realistically optimistic. And it just makes you appreciate things and realize the importance of, preserving the things that have gotten us to where we are and how we need to keep doing them and keep going. So beautiful books, very epic, wide scale, span a lot of things. It's very well written. Yeah. So the language instinct, language is very interesting to me. Etymology, I speak Spanish. I love to learn other languages and be maybe trilingual or more. The book here, Why Does the World Exist, is a fascinating book as well about this journalist. He goes through and interviews a lot of different people, scientists, philosophers, even a couple of theologians about that question. But anyway, going through here, you see some of these other books, basically science related. Get over here and it's more, there's obviously an evolution section. Some of these books on evolution, they talk about how old the idea is, and the ideas of it way before Darwin really, hit it home and found a lot of the evidence. But even ideas about natural selection you can find pre-Darwin. There's a lot of good books there. That Richard Dawkins book is signed. I did get to see him. I would say this book by Sean Carroll, The Big Picture, it's the best science book I've ever written. It's like if anybody wants a go-to science book about the overview of everything that we know, in science today. It's very well written, it's great. A lot of good pictures. Love when books have pictures. It makes them richer. You get more for your money, obviously. Some books about Brian Greene. This one in the middle is all the different versions of the multiverse, which is a really fascinating topic. Let's see. Carl Sagan. This book by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Letters from an Astrophysicist, are really fascinating. Letters he wrote to a lot of different people. It's just really cool. If we go down a little bit, so we're looking at books on the Enlightenment. Obviously, if you check my channel out, I'm pretty big into the Enlightenment. It's a very important era in history. A lot of stuff about the Enlightenment. Diderot has become my favorite philosopher, author from the Enlightenment. He's one of one of the figures who really championed reason in conjunction with passion. Yeah, you see The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, classic. A lot of big books, a lot of Jonathan Israel books. He's a very important Enlightenment author. If we go over here to this section, it's a lot of psychology on the left, about the mind, the brain, behavior, happiness. This book, Psych, I just read, which is a really good overview of psychology, the whole history. Some Joseph Campbell, I find his insights on mythology fascinating. Some books about Shelley. Why Buddhism is True was a book I recently read. Not saying literally or in the metaphysical, supernatural aspects like reincarnation or karma or anything. Just that some of the psychology, were made by natural selection, and one of the reasons we can't stay happy is because if we lived in like an endless, post-orgasmic bliss or with full, satisfied stomachs, we never do anything. So constantly we're kind of built to want to keep getting them other things, keep getting food, intimacy again, and, then get our genes into the next generation. Because if we didn't, we would die, right? And our genes would not propagate. So down here is some biblical books. The Skeptic's Annotated version of the Bible, very useful, as well as some contradictions there. Some Richard Carrier books, Bart Ehrman books, some other books on his history related to the Bible, things of that nature. Some of the dark things that Christianity has inflicted. Down here, a lot of books basically atheist-centric. A lot of these authors will be familiar. There's some other things as well. Some of these are signed. If we go over here to this section, this is going to be mainly philosophy. There's some good books by A.C. Grayling. This is book Ideas That Matter. It's a really cool, like, kind of survey of all kinds of ideas that matter, and, you know, for people that think about life. Philosophy, history of philosophy. This book by Bertrand Russell, The History of Western Philosophy, is a great book. Einstein was still alive and he praised it. It's another one of those books that I really fell in love with when I was overseas online, and I couldn't wait. It's one of the second book after Better Angels that I got when I got back 10 years ago. Still a classic. A lot of good Bertrand Russell, David Hume, Voltaire, philosophy of humanism, some books about the history of doubt, skepticism, atheism, things like that, which are fascinating. Some Renaissance material. Go down here, this section right here is going to be all about American history. So some books about first principles, about how the ancient world influenced the founders, and obviously they did more than anything else. Go back and look at ancient Greece and Rome. Obviously that's where they got their ideas. Some books about the non-belief of the founders, their religious unorthodoxy, doubt, skepticism, enlightenment influenced all of that. Covered in a lot of these books, which are great, including letters by them that they wrote, which is great. I'm talking about the foundation of knowledge here, how it's our institutions that check our own individual failings that really help us. These these networks that really constitute knowledge, that help us build knowledge. Peer review in science, for example, journalism, checks and balances. Things that, again, they check individual shortcomings, and they in turn check themselves, at least when they're working right. And we can build the knowledge, corroborate knowledge, all of that. Successful predictions. It's a book by Barack Obama. I got that from a family member for was that holiday. It's actually a pretty decent book. Obviously pretty nice. But yeah, it's kind of American history section. And then if we zoom out, books I'm currently reading, Natural History of Love. It's a very lavish book that I got that I'm finally getting to, history map of the world. If we go, these are kind of foundational books for me, like the most important books, The Lessons of History by the Durants, Big Picture, Sean Carroll, these two Steven Pinker books. They're really going to be kind of among what I consider the absolute best and most foundational books. And then we have some of these big kind of coffee table, like history, science books. This is pretty cool, the 1,000 Inventions, Discoveries. It takes you through basically, all the inventions that we've seen, which is crazy in the last, 200 years, the explosion of invention. It shows you, with medicine, with invention, science accurately diagnoses the world, the method of science, and that's how we, have been able to change it. Unlike for the past, before that, thousands of years, things basically stay the same. But yeah, down here, there's Gene Roddenberry, The Humanist, which I thought was cool. Had to get that, kind of a collector's thing. I'm a Star Trek fan for many reasons, It's based in science, all about unity, diversity, solving problems with science, with thinking, with cooperation. It's optimistic, a lot of things there. Like the biography of Gene Roddenberry there. I actually knew Richard Arnold, which was a Roddenberry's longtime assistant. I used to talk to him all the time. He told me that I reminded him of Gene Roddenberry, which is very flattering. He told me all kinds of stories about things working for him and all of that. But yeah, I mean, in this book, in the biography, Roddenberry's talking about, calling Christians cannibals and things he was noticing that even as he was like, I think 11 or something, and was starting to question that stuff, which is pretty entertaining. This book here about the philosophy of Star Trek, which is really cool. Physics of Star Trek. William Shatner, he's his books are really good, actually. I met him, and you know, he doesn't buy the religious stuff at all, and he has some interesting thoughts. Definitely. And just scanning here some trips I've taking meeting Steven Pinker, going to DC, going to Japan. The Carl Sagan quote. Some more Star Trek fiction books, as well as my books. My book that I wrote. I think I could do a little better, improve it a little better today. A poem here by William Ernest Henley, Invictus. Some books, dictionary, Will and Ariel Durant's, you know, massive history of the world, basically. The Age of Voltaire is a particular interest in me. It's a great book. Study of languages, study of some Asian countries that I find really interesting. A few self-help books, not many, but they're all really good. They're rooted in science. Some historical and scientific DVDs, Blu-rays. And if we go over here to kind of end this, I got a lot more stuff. This is kind of what's on display. A lot of this is, you know, Trek and Trek on Blu-ray. Some Doctor Who stuff, Mass Effect, which I love. Mass Effect, it's my favorite game series. Resident Evil remakes, which were great. As well as the Assassin's Creed series. I love the historical dimension of that. How you get to actually explore these historical places and all the figures then. That's all the main stuff. So I hope you guys found some of that interesting. And again, I will try to get active on this channel. Again, at some point, as far as actually making videos, it does take time, obviously. And but yeah, when I can invest some more into making this channel grow more and things of that nature, I'll definitely be trying to do that. So anyway, I will see you guys on the next one, whenever that is. You guys take care, and we'll see you then. Peace.
Foresight paradigm, fine. A foresight paradigm. Foresight paradigm, you fine. A foresight paradigm. I fight for sight.